Hey up! Now, I know you're all waiting for the full review of the Classic 350, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm hoping to get the filming done this weekend, so maybe next week. But what I thought I could do today is have a look at the onboard toolkit on the Classic 350. Most modern bikes don't carry much in the way of an onboard toolkit nowadays. Triumph only include one Allen key if you're lucky, and I believe even BMW have seriously scaled back on the tools that they supply with their bikes nowadays compared to how they used to be. They used to be legendary. In the old days, I used to love it whenever I bought a new bike. You know, you'd ride it away from the dealership, and the first thing I'd do when I'd got it home was investigate the toolkit. You know, not great quality tools, but in truth, good enough to last a lifetime if they're looked after. Very basic, and just enough there to get you out of trouble on the road if something goes wrong. So here we go, an unboxing of the Royal Enfield Classic 350 onboard toolkit. Although actually it doesn't come in a box, so it will have to be an unpacking of the Classic 350 onboard toolkit. When you get your new Classic 350 home, you'll find the onboard toolkit hidden behind the lockable cover on the right hand or offside side panel. It's inside quite a nice little sort of nylon tool roll, and it's sealed in a plastic bag. And from experience, I would suggest that you retain that plastic bag or get another plastic bag and keep that tool roll tucked up inside it while it's on your bike, because during its lifetime water will get to these tools and it's a good idea to keep them protected by a plastic bag. The roll fastens up with a series of Velcro sort of flaps, and it's decent enough quality for the job that it's got to perform, but inside there's a pretty decent little selection of tools that are enough to get you out of trouble on the roadside or do a little bit of basic maintenance at home. First up, we've got a pressed steel combination C-spanner, and this is designed to be used in conjunction with the tubular steel handle that's also included in the kit. I'll show you that in a minute. Now, the C-spanner's primary function is to adjust the spring preload on the shock absorbers. It's not a standard C-spanner, it's got two teeth on it to accommodate the cutouts on the bottom of the shock absorber. And I've got to admit, it's not the easiest thing in the world to use. That mudguard stay is in the way a bit and it makes things a bit awkward, but it does do the job with a little bit of care. Now, as I said, this is a combination C-spanner. Halfway down there is a larger hex spanner, and I've got to admit I can't remember what size it is, nor the one at the end. And right on the bottom of the handle there's another even smaller spanner that I can't remember what it is. Now, a press cut tool like this obviously isn't fantastic quality wise like a lot of the tools in this kit, but it's enough to get you out of trouble, and they're pretty sturdy little pieces. Next up, we've got an Allen key, and it is actually the only Allen key in the kit. Now, the primary function I think for including this in the kit is for chain adjustment, something that most riders have to do from time to time. Although I had a little explore and it does fit various other fasteners on the bike. The next up is something that I always like to see in a motorcycle toolkit. A little plug spanner. Now, you don't need to mess around with spark plugs as often as you used to, but it's always handy to be able to get one out if you've got an issue. And the great thing about the design of this bike is that you can actually get the plug out without taking the tank off. It's a bit of a faff on the Classic 500, whereas they've obviously thought it through a bit better with this particular model. And it's much more accessible. I actually have to use a plug socket out of my own toolkit to get the one out of the Classic 500 without taking the tank off. Now, as you can see, there's a 12mm hex on the top of this plug socket, so in order to actually turn it you need to use the 12mm open-ended spanner that's in your kit. Again, I'll get onto that in a moment. It's little touches like this that are just designed to sort of save space in the tool roll so that you don't have loads of sort of one-off pieces that can only be used for one thing. Moving on, and I think this is an ingenious little tool. We've got a 24mm ring spanner with a 14mm open-ended spanner at the other end, and a ruler in centimetres. Now, once again, this requires the use of that tubular handle that I showed you earlier on, because this is the spanner for your main axle nut and extra leverage is required. Now, in common with most motorcycles, the other end of the axle has a hole drilled through it. And also in your toolkit you'll find the iconic double-ended screwdriver and handle, which is a bit of a twat knacker to get out of the sleeve in the tool roll. But I'm clever, so I managed it eventually. Of course, you've seen these in just about every proper motorcycle toolkit since God invented motorcycles. Phillips or posi-drive screwdriver at one end, I'm not quite sure which, and a flat blade at the other end. And of course, this also doubles up as a Tommy bar, so you can hold the axle still while you turn the axle nut at the other side. So once you've slackened your axle off, you can adjust your chain slack using the Allen key, and then accurately measure your chain slack with that thoughtfully included 1cm scale. And there's no space wasted with that additional hex spanner on the end. Whatever next? They'll be putting USB sockets and fuel gauges on the bikes next. And of course, in the efforts of saving space, that screwdriver can also be used as a screwdriver. I struggled to find a use for the flat-bladed end, but if you have to change the bulb in your tiger's eye or replace your headlamp bulb, this is going to come in very handy. Next up, we have a pretty standard and familiar double open-ended forged spanner, 12mm at one end and 10 at the other. These can be employed on various fasteners around the bike, and I'm sure it'll come in quite useful on day-to-day maintenance. This is the only forged spanner in the kit, but in common with a lot of other bits and pieces in this kit, it is stamped with the Royal Enfield trademark. The next tool in the tool roll is another stamp cutout piece. And something I did like, sort of attention to detail on Royal Enfield's part here, is that where tools occupy the same pocket on the tool roll, they have separated them with some sort of tissue paper. Alright, it's not going to last long, but it keeps them new and fresh until the owner receives them. It's a thoughtful touch that I quite like. These are a 17 at one end and a 13mm at the other end. The 17mm is handy for undoing your shocks or tightening them up or whatever you need to do. I had a good look around the bike though, and I couldn't actually find any 13mm fasteners. I'm sure there probably will be somewhere, but it seemed unusual because 13mm is usually one of the more common fasteners on any bike, and I just thought it was odd that I couldn't find any. Almost at the end now. Of course, we've got that very useful tubular handle that is employed with one or two of these Presto stamped tools. It's certainly a lot more comfortable to grip, and it gives you a bit of extra leverage for tight or stubborn fasteners. Final piece, fuse remover. Normally these are kept in a little clip or sort of compartment in the fuse box. I thought it was odd that it was in the toolkit. Or maybe it's a spare, I'm not sure because I haven't investigated the fuse box yet. To be honest, I've never really bothered with these fuse removers. I can usually get them out with my fingers, but there's one there if you need it. So that, ladies and gentlemen, was the unpacking of the Royal Enfield Classic 350, and I would imagine for the Meteor 350 as well, Onboard toolkit. Now, if you're the owner of a Royal Enfield Meteor 350 and you can see some differences between this toolkit and your kit, please feel free to let other viewers know in the comments section down below. I'd be interested as well. And I have to say, there is quite a comprehensive little toolkit here, given the minuscule size of the tool roll. Once it's packed up, that's when you can remember how to pack it up. I think this is probably going to take me some time, so I'll let you go while I try to work it out. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. You know I really do appreciate it. I hope that you found this video useful and informative, and if you have, I would really appreciate it if you would leave a like, and if you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. It's absolutely free, it's reversible in seconds, and it's only polite if you've watched the video to this point. I am of course going to be back next week, so until then, if you're riding, please ride carefully, and I'll see you soon.